7 minutes. That's all it took to change everything for me. The title isn't clickbait. 7 minutes each morning transformed my life completely. I say that with humility and with a lot of caveats I'll get to, but also with the conviction that comes from living the before and the after. I want to take you through how it began, why those first minutes matter to your brain, a science-light explanation that actually matters for practice, the exact 7-minute ritual I used, how to set it up so you stick with it, and real-life stories from people who tried this and saw shifts in their energy, focus, relationships, and even some medical markers their doctors noticed. If this is speaking to you, try this with me now. Commit to 7 minutes each morning for the next 7 days. If you want a printable guide, type 7 in the comments and subscribe to get the downloadable ritual. My story starts in a hospital room, fluorescent lights humming, doctors speaking in that careful, quiet way people use when they don't yet know how to say the worst. I had a severe spinal injury. The clinical prognosis was grave, limited mobility, long recovery, and a future scripted by other people's expectations of what I might or might not be able to do. I could have folded into that forecast and let it define me. Instead, a small, stubborn part of me decided to try something different. I wasn't defying medicine or doctors. I followed their care. But in the hour before getting out of bed each morning, I began to practice 7 minutes of focused intention, posture, breath, heart, gratitude, and vivid imagining of a different life. At first it felt ritualistic, almost silly, but over weeks and months, tiny changes accumulated. The energy in my days shifted, my attention sharpened, my nervous system calmed in ways my rehabilitation team noticed. I can't say the practice alone cured everything. It didn't, but it became the hinge on which everything else turned. That hinge is what I want to hand to you. Before we get to the step-by-step, a short, plain language explanation of why those first 7 minutes matter. When you wake, your brain is not in full adult, bustling out the door alert mode. There's a transient window where brain activity sits in the theta range, a softer, more receptive rhythm. In that moment, your mind is less guarded, more open to impressions. Think of it like a gate that is easier to nudge open. Pair that with something neuroscientists call neuroplasticity, the principle that neural pathways strengthen with repeated activation. Neurons that fire together, wire together. When you consistently use your first waking minutes to feel centered, set intention, and visualize outcomes, you are biasing the brain to notice opportunities, filter experiences differently, and rehearse adaptive patterns. There's also the reticular activating system, a brain filter that helps you notice what you pay attention to. If you train it to look for calm, possibility, or small wins, it's more likely to point those out to you throughout the day. Research suggests these systems can be influenced by consistent mental training. Language like may, can, and suggests is important here. This is not a magic bullet nor an absolute guaranteed rewrite of biology. It's a practical use of how attention sculpts experience. I want to be clear about what I'm not saying. I'm not telling you to stop any medical treatments or that this practice will replace professional care. I'm not promising universal cures. What I am saying, based on my experience and the stories of others I'll share, is that a 7-minute morning ritual creates a persistent internal context that helps people respond differently to their lives. It gives your brain a small but powerful bias toward what you want to grow. Let me introduce a few people who tried this and reported real changes, not as proof that it will work for everyone, but as examples of how pattern and persistence play out in diverse lives. Lisa was 42 and deep in depression when she first reached out to me. She told me she had been sleeping a lot, moving through each day on autopilot, and had lost touch with things that used to matter. She began the 7-minute practice, sometimes barely holding attention for a minute, sometimes fully engaged, but she kept showing up. After about 6 weeks, she reported waking with slightly more energy and being able to notice a single small pleasure each day. Her therapist noted improved mood scores in month 2 assessments. Michael, a stressed executive, started on the advice of his cardiologist to lower stress-related spikes in blood pressure. He combined the practice with his prescribed treatment, and after 3 months, his doctor reported reduced nocturnal blood pressure readings. Michael attributed the change to better stress regulation and more consistent sleep. Sarah lived with chronic anxiety. Within about 8 weeks of consistent mornings, she told me she felt fewer midday panic spikes and better control over her breathing when anxious moments came. Her psychiatrist described the practice as a useful self-regulation tool. Robert, a mid-career professional stuck in indecision about a job shift, used the visualization portion to imagine himself in different roles. Within 4 months, he made a clear choice and landed a position aligned with values he had rediscovered in those mornings. Maria, a parent overwhelmed with a toddler and an infant, found that 5 to 7 minutes each morning helped her enter the day with softer patience. She reported improved responsiveness to her children and more restful evenings. These are individual stories, not promises. Each person implemented the routine alongside other supports. Therapy, medical care, lifestyle changes, and results varied. Still, the pattern was consistent. Small, repeated, focused attention led to observable change. Now the ritual. This is the exact 7-minute sequence I used and refined, with timing cues you can follow. It's tight, simple, and designed to be doable when your brain is still receptive. Step 0. Prepare. The night before, decide you will practice. Set an alarm 15 minutes earlier than you usually wake. Create a tiny, sacred space by designating a corner of your bedroom or living room, a single cushion, a small item that matters, a journal and pen within reach. Crucially, no phone until the practice is finished. If you need your phone for an alarm, put it face down and on Do Not Disturb, or use a simple alarm clock. Commit to a short written prompt for 1 minute after the practice. 1 sentence describing what you felt or what you intend that day. That's your accountability anchor. Step 1. Posture, 30 seconds. Sit upright on the edge of your bed or on a chair, feet grounded, spine long but relaxed. Imagine a string gently pulling the crown of your head toward the ceiling. Not rigid, just aligned. This posture signals your nervous system that you're ready to be awake and present. Feel the connection from your sit bones to your feet. This short, embodied cue is powerful. Posture influences mood and alertness. Step 2. Breath, 1 minute. The specific breathing pattern I teach is 3 cycles of inhale 5, hold 2, exhale 7. So inhale for 5 counts, hold softly for 2, and exhale for 7. Repeat this cycle 3 times. The longer exhale engages the parasympathetic system, the calming branch of the nervous system, and the hold gives stability. Do this with soft attention at the nostrils or the chest rise. If counting is awkward, use a slow inhale, short pause, longer exhale rhythm until you get comfortable. This breath pattern is not a medical intervention, but a reliable way to regulate a jittery nervous system. Step 3. Heart focus. 1 minute. Bring your attention to the center of your chest. You can place a hand there if that helps. Don't force an emotion. Instead, invite connection. Imagine the breath warming that area, an invitation to feel. Sometimes a small memory will surface, a dog's wag, a simple kindness, a sunrise. Allow whatever arises. This trains the body to start from a physiological center of calm and orientation toward what matters. Neuroscience suggests that heart-centered practices can influence emotional regulation. Again, phrasing it as suggest respects the limits of what we objectively can claim. Step 4. Gratitude embodiment. 1 minute. Instead of listing 3 items mechanically, embody 1 thing you're grateful for. Feel the gratitude in your body for the duration of the minute. Perhaps it's the sound of a child's laugh last night, the slight warmth of a coffee, the help you received during a tough hour. Notice the textures of that feeling. A soft tension in the chest, a release in the shoulders. Embodied gratitude changes your orientation. It trains the brain to scan for resources, not just threats. Step 5. Vivid visualization. 2 minutes. This is the core constructive step. With eyes open or softly closed, visualize a specific outcome for the day or a larger next horizon goal. Use sensory detail. Where are you? What are you wearing? What sounds are present? What does success feel like in your body? Make the image emotionally real. Feel the satisfaction or calm as if it's already happening. Keep it concrete and achievable. For a day, visualizing a calm meeting or a focused block of work works better than a distant fantasy. When you practice this consistently, the reticular activating system is more likely to prioritize opportunities consistent with that image. Step 6. Surrender, release. 40 seconds. End with a short release. You might say mentally or aloud, I do this work and I release the outcome to the life force, universe, God. I trust the process. Use language that fits you. The point is to pair intention with non-attachment. This step reduces internal gripping, which paradoxically frees energy for action and creativity. If surrender language feels religious, use secular phrasing like, I set this intention and I let go of control. If faith language fits you, Lord, I release or I offer this to God works fine. The key is the letting go. You do your part, then allow the rest to unfold. Final step, journal 60 seconds. Open your journal and write one sentence, either an intention for the day, one felt sensation from the practice, or a small gratitude. Keep it microscopic. This is about creating a trail of evidence. Over days, seeing those sentences accumulate rewires your sense of identity. You begin to be the person who shows up for 7 minutes. Total time, about 7 minutes. Sit for a breath after writing, then let your morning proceed without checking your phone immediately. Keep the no phone rule until you've completed this ritual. I want to give you practical tips for making this work in the real world. Habits are not made by willpower alone. They are designed. The night before decision is non-negotiable. Tell yourself aloud, I will practice for 7 minutes when I wake. Put the journal and a pen so they're the first thing your hand finds. Use an alarm 15 minutes earlier so you don't rush. If you travel, pack a small object from home to create the sacred space. If mornings are chaotic with kids, consider waking before them by 15 minutes or adapting the practice to a seated 5-minute version while tea warms. The more you remove friction, phone in another room, writing materials ready, the more likely you are to build a streak. Resistance will come. It came for me the second week when progress felt tiny and the hospital mood weighed heavy. Resistance also visited Lisa on Monday mornings, Michael when his calendar overflowed, and Sarah on days anxiety cut her focus. Name it when it arrives. Here's resistance, feeling like inertia. Notice without shaming. Use a tiny behavior to override it. Sit up, place your feet on the floor, and run the first breath cycle. Build streaks of small wins. Track days not by perfection, but by presence. Missing a day is not failure. Missing the next day because of shame is the pattern to guard against. Use accountability. Tell a friend. Post a single sentence in a community, or keep a simple tally in your journal. Habit formation research is clear. Consistency compounds. Small actions repeated reliably create identity-level change more than occasional heroics. Let's talk about what people typically notice and on what timeline. Short-term changes can show up within days to weeks. Slightly better mood, a clearer sense of priorities, fewer panic moments, more restful sleep. Medium-term changes, often after 6 to 12 weeks of consistent practice, include deeper shifts in stress regulation, more energy, improved decision-making, and relational changes because you show up differently with others. Long-term effects, months to years, are where identity shifts occur. People describe being someone who plans, who notices, who responds instead of reacting. Michael saw measurable improvements in nocturnal blood pressure over 3 months while continuing medical care. Lisa's clinician recorded better mood assessments by the 2nd month. Robert's clarity about his career unfolded over 4 months. These are timelines observed in practice, not guarantees. Your baseline, other supports, and life context will shape the pace. I also want to address language you'll often hear in the personal development space. Terms like quantum or energy can be useful metaphors, but they can also be misused. When someone says this practice quantumly shifts reality, be skeptical. Quantum physics is not evidence that thinking alone changes material outcomes in the miraculous way some pop language claims. Use the language as a metaphor. Intention influences attention. Attention influences perception. Perception influences action, and action shapes results. That chain is where measurable change lives. Be cautious about overclaiming science. I prefer to say research suggests or evidence indicates rather than definitive certainties. Here are some common obstacles and how to troubleshoot them. If your mind is racing and you can't visualize, don't fight. Start with the breath and heart focus until the racing slows. If you fall asleep during practice, it's a sign your sleep is insufficient. Try a slightly brighter light after you finish and check your sleep hygiene. If the gratitude step feels forced, pick a single concrete physical thing to be grateful for. Clean water, a warm blanket, and build from there. If you find yourself comparing progress to others, stop. Your timeline is yours. Keep the practice personal and small. People often ask about measuring progress. Keep simple metrics. A mood score from 1 to 10 each morning before and after the practice. A nightly sleep quality check or a weekly note on energy and focus. For medical outcomes, only use objective measures your clinician approves, lab results, blood pressure logs, prescribed symptom scales, and always inform your healthcare team about any self-regulation practices you adopt. When Michael reported changes to his cardiologist, they reviewed the readings together and adjusted his overall plan safely. That's the right model. Integrate practices with professional advice. One part of this ritual is psychological rehearsal, using visualization to practice the behavior you want. Athletes do this all the time. It's not mysterious. If you can imagine performing with calm and clarity, your brain builds a scaffold that makes the real performance easier. This is why the sensory detail matters. Feel the texture, hear the sounds, notice the internal sensation. Keep the images actionable. Visualize answering the tough call with steady breath, not suddenly owning a mansion. Small, believable images produce larger behavioral shifts. Accountability and social features help. I recommend a simple 7-day challenge as a first test. Commit to 7 minutes each morning for 7 consecutive days and write 1 sentence about the experience. That's it. 7 days is short enough to be doable and long enough to notice whether this practice will sit with you. If you want a printable guide or an audio-led version, I have resources. Type 7 below and subscribe to the channel to receive them. This is the only early prompt I'll give you. We began the ritual with a one-time invitation. Keep it simple. Let's revisit the neuro part in one crisp paragraph. Waking theta makes your mind more receptive. Neuroplasticity means repeated mental actions wire the brain. The reticular activating system steers attention toward what you habitually prioritize. The practice leverages those features by pairing intention with embodied cues, posture, breath, heart, and doing it consistently. That combination scaffolds changes in perception and behavior. Again, research suggests these systems are modifiable. We are using them practically, not claiming miraculous shortcuts. I'll offer a couple of variations, so this works for different personalities. For people who are very mental, add a micro-planning component. Spend 30 seconds after visualization listing the single most important task for the next 2 hours. For highly embodied people, add a gentle neck and shoulder roll before posture to release tension. For those who share a bed and can't wake early, consider a 2-part practice, a 3-minute version while still in bed, and a 4-minute standing version later when the house is quiet. Flexibility helps with adherence, but the core elements, breathe, heart, gratitude, visualization, surrender, journal, remain. Now, some small real-world stories with details. Lisa's mornings were messy at first. She described starting with a broken, foggy head and sitting with her breath on hard days while a kettle boiled nearby. She kept a tiny spiral notebook and wrote one sentence. I felt a small lift when Gracie smiled at lunch. Those micro-evidence points built into a confidence that outlasted any single day. Michael would set his alarm 15 minutes earlier and play a soft chime. After the breath cycles, he would sit with the feeling of calm and rehearse one business conversation with dignity. He tracked his blood pressure at night and shared the data with his doctor. Sarah learned to recognize the physical signs of anxiety preemptively. Instead of spiraling, she'd return to her 3 breathing cycles and reduce the intensity of an episode. Robert used vivid visualization to practice saying the words, "I accept this new role," out loud in his mind. When the real offer came, the inner rehearsal made the acceptance feel like a continuation rather than a leap. Maria started by hiding the phone across the room for the first week and reported that the small space of undistracted consciousness helped her respond to her children with less reactive yelling. Throughout, I want to return to humility and persistence as the real engines here. This is not about willpower tyranny or shaming anyone who can't manage 7 minutes. Resistance, fatigue, grief, and illness change what practice looks like. The point is to create a tiny, repeatable pattern that keeps you oriented toward the life you want to build. Over time, repetition compounds. 70 minutes over 10 days becomes 420 minutes over 6 weeks. That cumulative attention rewires more than a single heroic hour could. Before we close, a necessary caveat. If you have a serious medical condition, discuss any changes with your healthcare provider. If you are taking medication, do not stop or alter it without medical supervision. Some people may find mental imagery triggers intense emotions. If that happens, work with a qualified therapist. If you have severe depression or PTSD, this practice can be supportive, but is not a substitute for therapy. Be kind to yourself and use professional resources as needed. I began this practice in the middle of crisis. It did not magically erase the reality of my injury, but it shifted my internal landscape enough that I could engage differently with rehabilitation, make better choices each day, and gradually expand my capacity. 7 minutes of daily attention gave me a consistent space to rehearse my best responses. As small shifts accumulated, doors opened I had not expected. That's why I can stand here and say the title frankly. 7 minutes each morning transformed my life completely. If you do the work, give it time, and integrate it alongside professional care and wise habits, it can become a hinge of change for you too. If you're ready to try, commit now to 7 minutes for the next 7 mornings. Use the steps I shared: posture, 3 breath cycles, inhale 5, hold 2, exhale 7, heart focus, 1 minute embodied gratitude, 2-minute vivid visualization, brief surrender, and a 60-second journal note. Set your alarm 15 minutes earlier, prepare your sacred space tonight, and keep your phone out of reach until you finish. After 7 days, notice what's different, even if it's small. If you want to go deeper, join the 7-day challenge I mentioned, share your experience in the comments, and subscribe for the guided audio version and printable ritual. I read many of the comments and will use your stories to refine future guidance. Move gently into this, and remember, small actions repeated become the person you are. 7 minutes is all the space you need to begin.